Hello, everybody. I'm Mel Doerr, the Aloha Shirt Psychic, and I'm really excited. Aiden, who manages my channel, gave me a great idea, and I love it. So, we're going to start a new series called the Aloha Oracle. And the way it works is we will post a video on Mondays at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, and then it'll be shown to the general public the next day. Also, twice a month, we're going to be going live at 6 p.m. on Mondays, and you can ask questions live in the chat. For those of you who are not members, you're always welcome to ask questions when we do our regular shows. But I thought this would be a wonderful thing to do for my members. And we're starting 3 tiers of memberships. $4.99 a month will get you 5% off of a session with me and coming events. $8.99 a month will get you 10% discount on a session with me. And $9.99 a month will give you 15% off on a session with me and upcoming events. So I'm very excited. In order to join, just go on YouTube, Mel Doerr, Aloha Shirt Psychic, or Mel Doerr Psychic, and hit that join button. So I'm really looking forward to this. So I'm going to be answering some questions that you sent in. But first of all, I want to talk about a few current events, and then I'll get to your questions. Boy, it's been just a crazy, crazy week, hasn't it? But I took some notes before we got started. And I'd like to kind of share with you what I came up with. Now, I had remembered a while back when I kept saying my guides told me that Netanyahu and some high members in the Israeli cabinet would be held for war crimes. And when my guides gave me that flash, I thought, no way. This just can't be right. There's just absolutely no way. Well, guess what? I just read in the paper today that Netanyahu has asked President Biden on Sunday to help prevent the International Criminal Court from issuing arrest warrants for senior Israeli officials in conjunction with the attacks Israel has made on Gaza. Also, the International Criminal Court is preparing to issue warrants of arrest for Netanyahu, Israeli Defense Minister, I think it's Yoav Gallant, and Israeli Defense Forces Chief of Staff Herzi, I think it's Halevi. So, boy, my guides were really accurate on that. What Hamas did was horrible, the attack on Israel. And we know that it was sponsored by Iran and by Putin because Putin and Iran wanted to take everybody's eyes off Ukraine. And they wanted to make it look bad for Biden, in my opinion, because Biden supports Israel. And they wanted to create instability in the Middle East. And they knew that Biden needs all the votes he can get in this election, and that they would try to turn Palestinian Americans and Arab Americans against Biden. Well, it's kind of, for a while, it's looking like it's working because a lot of the Palestinian Americans are protesting, and many of them are voicing their dissatisfaction with Biden aligning himself with Netanyahu. But there's a long time between now and the election. Since 6 months is a long time. And I predict that behind closed doors, Biden is telling Netanyahu, stop it. You've already wiped out Hamas in Gaza. You need to really stop the attacks, and you need to let humanitarian aid get through. And if Netanyahu doesn't stop it, Biden will cut aid to Israel. I see that coming. People in Israel are protesting in the streets because they want their loved ones back. They don't like Netanyahu. Netanyahu has created a lot of crimes. and he's going to have to come to trial for those crimes and be convicted. I see conviction. What I do see in Israel as well is another leader coming who will be a tremendous peacemaker, no nonsense, no nonsense, but a tremendous peacemaker, and who will allow Israel and Palestine to coexist peacefully. And I see two separate states coming, Israel and Palestine, two separate states. So this whole ploy by Iran and Putin to destabilize the Middle East, it looks like it's working for a while, but they will not succeed. They will not be successful whatsoever. With transgendered rights, a federal appeals court ruled that state health insurance companies, and I'm reading my notes here, state health insurance company plans must provide coverage for gender affirming care in North Carolina and West Virginia. I don't know the exact nuances of it, but I think they were trying to have insurance companies not have to provide gender affirming care, but for their state insurance plans. But the federal appeals court said no, that those insurance companies must provide the gender affirming care. Now, if they take it to the Supreme Court, it'll be very interesting to see how the Supreme Court reacts. I think they would kick it back down to the state. Other thing in the news a little bit today is that Columbia University, their students protesting there, and the university said if they don't clear out and don't stop protesting, there's a protest camp, that they are going to be suspended from the university. And they're already starting to suspend students from the university. It's a pro-Palestinian protest. And here again, the students are protesting the way that Netanyahu is handling the Gaza Strip in Palestine. And these students won't give up. You know, in this country, we have a right to peaceful protest, and they are protesting peacefully. I'm not saying I'm for them or against them, but to suspend them or expel them from the university, I think is a little harsh. You know, people are asking if it'll turn violent. The only way it would turn violent is if there would be agitators being brought in. I don't think the protest is anti-Semitic. I think it's anti-Netanyahu. So I don't think we can confuse anti-Semitism with anti-Netanyahu. Again, I'm pro-Israel, totally pro-Israel, but not in favor of Netanyahu. So it'll be interesting to see how it comes out. All right, so I'm ready to get to some questions that my members have given me. The first one is, hi, Mel. Given the heat President Biden and our country are facing for supporting Israel, do you think this could lead to Netanyahu's removal and a push for a two-state solution? With the protest movement and everything that's going on, I see it being a very, very strong force in removing Netanyahu, bringing peace to the Gaza Strip, and at some point further down the road, once Biden is reelected, having a two-state solution. But I'll tell you, if Russia and Iran is behind any more shenanigans about Hamas attacking Israel or any pro-Israeli country or any terrorist acts, and we will see some terrorist acts, I think, in Northern Europe and here as well, then we're going to really go hard and fast after Hamas. I do see pressure being put upon Israel to remove Netanyahu, and I see a two-state solution, absolutely. Question 2. Many readers on YouTube are speculating about what might happen to Trump. There have been predictions of him getting sick, going to jail, fleeing the country. What do you see happening? Oh boy, do you have all day? When I concentrate on Trump, My guides show me dark clouds around him. And whenever I see clouds dark like that, that would indicate illness. It would indicate not feeling well. And my guides have shown me for a long time he really has to watch the head. So I don't know if it's more like stroke or circulatory issues. Um, I do think there's, for entertainment purposes only, there's some ischemia going on, which is a lack of oxygen a little bit going to his head. And I don't think he's taking care of his health. If you look at him in the trial, when you see him coming out of the courtroom, he looks really tired, and he doesn't look well. He really doesn't. And the fact that he's sleeping in the courtroom, that didn't bode well either. So I've never seen him going to jail, but I do see Judge Marchand and other judges as well holding him in contempt of court. Now, if he's held in contempt of court in New York, then part of his, I think part of his bond or being free is that he behave himself and not have any criminal charges, other criminal charges brought against him. Well, if he's held in contempt of court, that's a criminal charge. Also, what I'm seeing is that because of the fraud case, which was a civil case, it was not a criminal case, but because it uncovered criminal activity, the court will refer that case over to the state of New York and ask the state or and let the state decide if they want to bring about criminal charges against Trump for the fraud. And I do see criminal charges being brought against Trump as a result of the outcome of the civil case, the civil fraud case. I don't think he's going to flee the country. I don't see him fleeing the country at all. I do see him held in contempt. And if he keeps opening his mouth, then Judge Marchand will either put him under house arrest or put him in like a holding cell for a while. I see him found guilty in the New York trial. The other thing is, I think SCOTUS is going to remand the insurrection trial back down to the lower court. So they're going to have to hear all kinds of arguments on that. And then the Supreme Court is not going to meet again until October. So Trump will try to appeal all that stuff. The Supreme Court will hear it. It'll take 2 or 3 more months. So I don't think that trial is going to happen until after the election. But I do feel and intuit that the Georgia trial is going to happen before the election. And I see him found guilty there as well. So I don't see him fleeing the country. I do see him found guilty on numerous criminal charges, both state and federal. And I do not see him as president, but I don't see him fleeing the country. Okay, the next question would be did Trump actually have flatulence in the courtroom? I certainly don't think that the reporting on that one was a misnomer. So it's hard for me to even tune into that one psychically. Ooh, talking about clear aroma. Whoa, that's an example of clear aroma. All the clairs, psychically it smells like not good. The answer is yes. I do think that he had flatulence in the courtroom. And actually sleeping more in the courtroom as well. So, part of it's probably his diet. I'm sure intuitively I feel that his diet is not the best on the planet, that he really doesn't take good care of himself. And so I'm hearing a yes to that. Was the biblical depiction of Jesus accurate? Did he truly perform miracles, or was he just a regular human like us? Please give us some insight on who he actually was. I've often said what's going on with the ultra right wing so-called Christian nationalist, that if they don't like LGBTQ, they don't like African Americans, they don't like Hindus, they don't like Muslims, they don't like this, they don't like that. If that's Christianity, then count me out. But if Christianity is what Jesus and the prophets taught about acceptance and caring and kindness and loving and helping each other, then I'm a Christian. Count me in. A lot of the dogma in the Catholic Church and most churches, I think, was written by people. The biblical description of Jesus, in my opinion, would be like trying to write about somebody 300 or 400 years after they died. And that's exactly kind of how it was. And a lot of people weren't literate back in those days, so everything was passed down by word of mouth. So if that would be like me trying to tell you the daily living of George Washington, and I would just have to go on what I've read or what I've heard. So, the Bible was written by humans. Everybody, please don't start giving me nasty emails and stuff like that. So, I think the true miracle of Jesus was the love that he preached and acceptance and understanding and caring. That is the true miracle of Jesus. And that's what it should be, in fact. If you believe in Christianity, then Jesus was also human and he was also part God. So he was, in many ways, a regular human like all of us. I'm sure he epitomized loving and caring and kindness and doing kind deeds, feeding people. What did Jesus do when he came across? What did he say? Let who is without sin cast the first stone. So he didn't set in judgment. And I think a lot of us, if we lived our lives according to giving and caring and being kind and not casting the first stone, it'd be a lot better world. So I don't know if I answered the question or not, but I think, in my opinion, my psychic opinion, that's who Jesus really was. Hi, Mel. I come from a long line of family members with ADHD. Will doctors or scientists ever find a cure for this? I was diagnosed with ADHD later on in life, and I can't take the medication like the Ritalin or the Concerta or the Adderall. It makes my blood pressure go too high. But I find if I have a cup of coffee or a glass of green tea, it helps me focus. It's paradoxical. When you have ADD or ADHD, those drugs I mentioned are caffeine, they're stimulants. And for some reason, the stimulant you think would make it worse, but it doesn't. It just helps us focus more. It's funny. My mother, she saved everything. And when my mom passed away, I was going through stuff and I found a napkin from my first birthday party. It was Mickey Mouse. But she also saved all my report cards. And in those days, we got graded in conduct back in Kentucky. And my conduct would always say, needs to sit still, needs to learn to stop talking, needs to learn to follow directions. And when I showed those to a therapist friend of mine, he was like, Mel, that's ADD. I don't know about a cure, but I do see effective treatments. I don't know if it's genetic, probably, but I think it's just the way our brains are wired. And do we really want to rewire our brains? So I wouldn't call it a cure, but I would call it hugely much more effective treatments than what we have now. That I see. Is there a possibility of humans ever developing the ability to teleport similar to what we see in Star Trek? Well, we kind of already do if you believe in astral projection. The idea of astral projection is that we, sometimes when we're sleeping or sometimes in our waking, that we can have our spirit being, if you will, go and visit other places while we're still in this particular spot in body. So I do believe in astral projection, that I believe in. But as far as teleportation, like what we see in Star Trek, it's nice to think about that, isn't it? I don't see that happening. Sorry. In order for that to happen, you'd have to have tremendous amounts of energy because you'd have to break all the molecules in your body apart. When that happens, it releases tremendous energy. And then you'd have to figure out a way to put them all back together. And that would be very, very, very difficult. We don't have anything that can produce that tremendous amount of energy and contain it. That's another problem, contain it. So I think we'll make tremendous progress in being able to do mental communication and telepathic communication and that sort of thing, uh, but not actual physical teleportation. Sorry. Dear Auntie Mel, I've always been curious about past lives. Have you ever discovered who you were in a past life? Yeah, a lot of them. And one, I love to dance. One, I was in a dance hall, and I was a singer. I can't sing in this life, but I love to dance, and that was brought over. And other lives, I was a prostitute, both male and female, in Rome. It was quite possible because that empire lasted a couple thousand years. So it was quite possible to have numerous past lives in the Roman Empire or in ancient Greece, because that lasted a long time, or in ancient Egypt for that matter. One of my other lifetimes, I was a scribe. A scribe was a person back in medieval times. The educated people were the priests and some of the nuns, and the priests were the ones that were writing everything down, and they did it by candlelight. And if you made a mistake, you'd start all over again, and it affects your vision. And my vision is a little affected in this lifetime, but I was a scribe, and from breathing in all of that candle soot, it caused almost like a tuberculosis. One of my past lives, I died of bubonic plague. So, in one of my past lives, I was a physician, and actually two or three past lives, and one was during one of the Great Plagues, and lost my whole family. I tried to help them with making pills and things, or medicine out of like roses and rose water and that sort of stuff. And in the past life, I was an alchemist. So I found those out by just going through past life regression. And if you go through it, it's not like you're really living that life. It's like you're still, where you're at, but you're seeing it in your mind's eye. And then, a lot of me was like, well, is that really a past life, or is that me thinking that? That's the analysis paralysis. But one of them, I was able to come up with information that I had no way of knowing about. And when we checked on it, it was accurate. So that's how I found out about it. Okay. Will the Wall Street Journal reporter who is being held in a Russian prison ever be released? His name is Ivan Gershkovich. I do at some point see him being released. I think Putin is going to use Ivan Gershkovich as a tool that Putin would say for negotiation, but I'm saying he would use Gershkovich as a tool to get some things that Putin wants, like, maybe having some accounts unfrozen, or to try to use Gershkovich as a way to influence political outcomes in Ukraine. But it won't work. At some point, once Putin is gone, I see Gershkovich being released, but it's going to be a long while. When do you see Biden nominating more justices to the Supreme Court? Will this help lessen the grip the evangelical Christianity has on the majority of SCOTUS? I think that, like Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, Clarence Thomas, Roberts, they're not religious. They're not religious at all. They say they're conservative. I just think that I don't think they're that religious. I think Amy Coney Barrett is. I think that there were deals cut. And in fact, there was a minister who came forward, a couple of them, and said there were deals cut with some of the Supreme Court justices. Like, if you do this for us, we'll do this for you. And once they kind of did that, then they let the tiger out of the cage, and they couldn't control the tiger. The Supreme Court I'm talking about. with then what happened with the MAGA Christian, ultra right-wing Christian nationalists. Many ministers are appalled at some of those deals that were struck, and many ministers, Christian ministers, are appalled at what's going on with religion in this country. And I'm not anti-religion, and I am a Christian. Somebody said to me, ask if I dislike Christians, and the answer is no, I am a Christian. I just dislike the hypocrisy with the MAGAs, with some of the MAGAs, not all. So no, I don't see Biden nominating more justices to the Supreme Court until after the election. Because what I'm seeing is they're going to be 2 justices being impeached. Now, impeached just means to bring to trial. And if they're found guilty, then they're removed from office. But it takes, like, I think 60% of the Congress, of the Senate, to impeach. So we'd have to have some massive gains in the Senate for that to happen. But I do see 2 justices going through impeachment, and my feeling is they'll resign as a result of it. So I do see that Biden will be able to add more justices to the court, just not between now and the election. And at some point, I see term limits coming for the Supreme Court, that they can only serve so many terms, X amount of time, maybe 12 years, and that's it, which I'm all in favor of. I see that grip loosening. And I also see that there's going to be legislation passed where these justices cannot take gifts. And if they do, and if they don't disclose it, then that's grounds to get them off the court and grounds for criminal prosecution. So I see some judges coming on the court who won't be swayed politically by religion, by money, by political parties. They'll do their job, and that's what I see coming. Last week, Bradley Close, a teenager with autism, walked out of his work shift in Arizona and hasn't been seen since. Do you have any insights on where he is, what's happened to him? That's a very good question. And as a psychic who's worked with police officers on missing persons and murder cases for many, many years, I would always take a case under the following conditions. One, if the family came to see me, I would tell them what I need, what I saw, what I felt. But if they gave it to the police and the police came to me, then I would no longer have any connection with the family, only because a lot of times a family member is a person of interest in cases. I would also take the case under the stipulation there would be no charge and that I wouldn't go to the press. So nobody has called me in on this case, and I really don't want to give any psychic answers on it publicly because I have not been called in on it, and I think that's unfair to the family. But I do feel that he is at this moment alive, and I do feel that they will find his whereabouts. And I'll leave it at that. Do you see Barron Trump following in the footsteps of his father, or doing a complete 180 and being the total opposite of him? I feel bad for Barron Trump. I really do. When you're, have a father who was president, and then to see your father going to court because he's held under indictment for criminal charges. And then Trump outside of court saying, "Oh, I can't go to my son's graduation." Judge Merchan never said Trump couldn't go to his son's graduation. And for the record, he didn't go to any of his kids' graduations. I see Barron Trump not going public. I see Barron Trump just wanting to have his private life and to live his life peacefully. And my feeling is Barron is going to be the total opposite of Donald. I see Barron doing really good things for humanity and good things for people. I see he's going to be a humanitarian at some point. So I see him breaking away from Donald Trump's image and being his own person. and actually doing really great things for humanity and for people. That's how I pick it up. How is President Jimmy Carter doing? Well, I really admire him. Um, he's religious, but in my opinion, that's what Christianity, in my opinion, that is what Christianity should be all about. Jimmy Carter is the epitome of it, and I admire him. I really do. Um, somebody asked Jimmy Carter about gay marriage, and Jimmy Carter said, "There's nothing in the scriptures about it. There's nothing in the scriptures against it." So he wasn't against it. He's not judgmental. He's not mean spirited. He's caring. He's kind. He was a good leader. I thought he was a good president. I think he got a raw deal. But Jimmy Carter, he's not ready to cross over just yet. He's a fighter. And I think we can learn a lot from him about acceptance and kindness and caring. I mean, he's the one that brought about peace with Egypt and Israel when nobody else thought it could be done. He did it at Camp David. So blessed are the peacemakers, he's not ready to cross over yet. He's still got a little fight left in him. Could you ask your guides to remind you of a song that might serve as an indicator of how the upcoming week will unfold? As I was talking about Jimmy Carter, the song came to my mind, Bless the Beast and the Children. Blessed are the peacemakers. So I would say, bless the beast and the children. There was a movie made about that, but also the song. And I think that will help get us through a lot of trying times this coming week. So bless the beast and the children. Yeah, I think we're done. I don't think I have any more questions. This has been fun. Excuse my stammering. It's kind of hard to just keep going on when you don't have anybody to interact with. But I hope that you all enjoyed this. Aiden came up with the idea Aloha Oracle, and I love that. So this series is going to be Aloha Oracle. Join me for Morning Moments with Mel. Tomorrow night, a show with Kim Copeland. Thursday, Kevin Chandler. Friday, I don't even know yet. We will put these shows up on Mondays for the members, and then general public for Tuesday. And then twice a month, as I said in the beginning, we'll go live. Live on Mondays at 6 p.m. to answer your questions for the members. So one little idea of business is be sure and inquire about our event coming, our Chicago event coming. Linda Grindle, me, Kevin Lewis, Kevin Chandler, Kim Copeland. Aiden's going to be there filming. Psychic Arthur is going to be the MC. Deanna is going to talk about her oils. So it's going to be really, really neat. It's going to be on a Thursday night, all day Friday, all day Saturday, breakfast, lunch included. It's going to be a lot of fun and very informative as well. So if you're interested, you can call my office, 847-590-5411, or you can email me at www.meldoerr, meldoerr.com, and there's a brochure on my website. So this has been a lot of fun. Thank you so much. Aloha and namaste. And until next week, stay safe and stay well.